All right, so a mole is basically a unit. If you know that 12 is a dozen, or a ream is 500, or a gross is 144, or a dozen, then it's the same thing. For example, if you have 2.8 dozen apples, you want to figure out how many apples you have. You simply take 2.8 dozen divided by 1 dozen to cancel out the dozens, multiplied by 12. That would give you how many apples you have. 2.8 times 12.
It's 33.6.
There you go. So two significant digits, 2.8 dozen, so we would have 34 apples. Hopefully, right? If we take a look, a mole is a much bigger number. It's needed because of how small atoms actually are. So let's say that you have 0.25 moles of carbon. Like let's say just in your pencil. Then every 1 mole of carbon is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of carbon. Unfortunately, the watch can't do this, so we'll have to do it on here. So 0.25 times 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Boom. That is two significant digits, so 1.5 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of carbon. Easy enough. So if we have 0.250 moles of CO2, every 1 mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And what is the particle for CO2? If it's atoms of carbon, for moles of CO2, it would be molecules. Molecules of CO2. So we take 0.25 times 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. What do we know? It's the same thing. 1.51 this time because we do have an extra significant digit. 1.51 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of carbon dioxide. Now, cool thing is all of these molecules, atoms, ions, and formula units. I don't know how to spell units. There we go. Are all called representative particles. Particles. So there we go. Molecules, atoms, ions, formula units, all representative particles. There's one time that I was walking by, I thought I saw this dog. It looked similar to our dog, and we had Yorkshire Terriers growing up. I was like, oh, what a cute Yorkshire Terrier. And this lady is, she's like, it's a Yorkie poo. So this was a Yorkshire Terrier mixed with a poodle or something like that. So I looked at her and I said, oh, nice dog. Whatever, lady, right? Same thing here. If you don't want to worry about molecules, atoms, ion, formula units, call them all representative particles. I could have easily said 1.51 times 10 to the 23rd RPs of carbon dioxide. Good, good. Let's take a look here. It says, now what if we want to reverse this? How many moles, well, you can't see that. How many moles would equal 3.6 times 10 to the 20 atoms of copper? So it's the same thing, except for this time you put the atoms down here. That way they cancel out, and 1 mole goes on top. Notice the number that's always going to go with mole currently is 1. So 3.6 times 10 to the 20th divided by 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Make sure I got that right. Yep. So I'm going to go into scientific notation. Boom. And that is 5.9 or 6.0 times 10 to the negative 4th moles of carbon. Let's try one more. Notice formula units is for ionic compounds. Calcium nitride. Ionic compound, molecule for molecular compounds, CH4, methane, or carbon tetrahydride. So, calcium nitride, that many formula units. I want formula units on the bottom. And it is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd formula units. And that's equal to 1 mole. So, 2.71 times 10 to the 23rd divided by 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Boom. That is equal to 0.450 moles of calcium nitride. And that's how we do that. So please work down through all of these problems down to D, and then see if you're smart enough to go from moles of C6H14 to atoms of carbon. Keeping in mind every one molecule of C6H14 has 6 atoms of carbon in it. So good luck on that one. Tomorrow we'll do counting by weighing.